The European Union delegation that was here, headed by the EU head of delegations, and 19 EU ambassadors with us today. A long meeting the last 3 hours, discussing amongst other issues. The most important issue today in Kenya, which is the fight against corruption. I think the European Union is perhaps the single and the biggest development partner that we are working with in the justice sector. And today here I have Ambassador Simon, who is the head of delegation, and I will invite him to say one or two on behalf of the ambassadors.
Thank you very much. As the DPP says, it's not every day, but the entirety of the EU ambassadorial corps, we go together and spend nearly 3 hours sitting down and running through a topic in detail, listening to an intense briefing on the activities of one of our key partners. I think that our presence here today represents a sign of confidence in the DPP and his office, a sign of respect for their work, and a sign of the importance which we as key partners of Kenya attach to the fight against corruption and organised crime. We've seen this week a very strong statement by the head of state in his address in Mombasa to the nation of the importance which he attaches to the fight against corruption. As the DPP said, I think we are probably the biggest partner, development partner of the DPP. We've got our programme which we call the PLEAD programme, providing some 3 billion Kenyan shilling, a multi-agency task force approach, so both to the DPP, to the BCI, to the judiciary, and yesterday we were at the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission as well. We were looking also at how we can advance the support. I think equally that 2020 is an important year for Kenyan people to see not just the launch of investigations, but also the conclusion of the prosecutions and convictions, asset recovery. And this is not an abstract topic. If one looks at some of the key cases that are on the table, which I think the DPP explained to us today, that some of the 140 cases that are going through a prosecution at the moment, there's, if I remember correctly, DPP, there's something like 230 billion Kenyan shillings in potential asset recoveries. Let's just ask ourselves for one moment what difference that would make to kick-starting the Kenyan economy, to creating jobs and opportunity, in particular for young people, if those funds were put to productive use. So we stand hand in hand with DPP and his staff through our programme, through the judicial cooperation, which is often taking place on some of the complex transcontinental cases, close cooperation between the judicial authorities in EU member states and the staff of the DPP and judicial authorities in Kenya, should hopefully allow for progress to be made. So they are, I think, the key points on our side. Congratulations, DPP, and all your staff for your work, and we hope to see, as the President said, this also leading to successful outcomes of the prosecution and convictions.
Basically, that's what we've discussed, and as I've said before, EU is our biggest partner and supporter in the justice system, in the criminal justice system, and not just for DPP, but the whole criminal justice system. And we are very appreciative of their support, and they've pledged to continue that support and probably more in ensuring that we have the capacity and the ability to discharge our mandate, especially when it comes to fighting corruption. We appreciate the collaboration. We have discussed a lot, but one thing that I would want to underline, we've also requested the European Union to help us ensure that the civil society also takes its rightful role in highlighting the ills of corruption and in supporting the fight against corruption. Not necessarily us as ODPP, but Kenya. They need to highlight and they need to take this fight it through like any other issue that they have handled. And I think the European Union has agreed to support us in that area, to get that support from the civil society. In addition, I think we have, as the ambassador said, we have committed ourselves to ensure that convictions are brought this year. But then again, we've made it very clear that convictions is not just about prosecutors and prosecution, but it's about the criminal justice system and the chain within it. And it will be as weak as the chain that is weak. And we are asking, and we have given reasons why, we are asking for a level playing field. I think I've asked that severally, without blaming anybody within the criminal justice system. And hopefully we will get that. I think there's been some positive indicators that that will be the case. I think, again, I want to caution Kenyans on the issue of convictions. We will get convictions, but remember that there is a process of appeal. And I don't want people to be disappointed when we get convictions at the magistrate level and people rush to the next level for appeal to the High Court and then the Court of Appeal. Because then the narrative will change. And the narrative will be, why are these people still outside there, or why have you allowed the appeal to take place? This is constitutional, it's a constitutional right, and people have the right to appeal.
So I'm cautioning Kenya that we are confident we will get the convictions. But once the appeal process kicks in, the blame should not be shifted to the DPP or investigators or any other person. And neither should they blame the judiciary, because it is the right of everybody to have an appeal and to appeal against any ruling that is there until they exhaust the whole criminal justice process. I think I don't want to belabor too much on this issue. We are committed when it comes to issue of recovery. This year you will see huge recoveries. We now have the prosecution fund that was set up last month. We already have 2.9 billion in that account. We're setting up an administrative regulation and team that will oversight it. It will be independent from the DPP. It will be transparent, and the funds and the monies will be there for Kenyans to audit if they want, and we will ensure that the team utilizes the money appropriately for restitution, because the issue will be prudent utilizations of those funds to restitute where they were stolen from. And of course, part of the money will also be utilized to enhance the capacities of investigators and prosecutors. We have pledged a lot more for this year. We will be concentrating in delivering. This is the most important thing, in delivering convictions this year. I think with those few words, probably the last thing that I will talk about is the respect of court orders. It is very important for all of us to respect court orders. And the DPP has been at the forefront in enforcing court orders, whether they be bail terms, enforcing bail terms, or otherwise. And we are urging everybody to do that. However, it should be very clear that we did have a contempt of court act that was, however, pronounced to be unconstitutional by the judiciary. And because of that, we have no recourse to enforce it, from a criminal perspective. We had to revert back to the English law, which is civil in nature, and we are asking that we're in discussion with the Attorney General for that particular act of contempt of court act to be brought back, so that those who break and do not enforce court orders will then have to face criminal proceedings.
So with those few words, we want to, as ODPP, reiterate our commitment to the rule of law and of course, the Constitution of our Republic. Thank you, and God bless Kenya. Yes.
Niko na swali niruhusu nizungumze kwa Kiswahili kwa mtazamaji wetu wa Inoro. Kuna kesi ambayo ulikuwa umepeleka mahakamani kuhusu gavana wa Samburu.
Naam.
Ambayo ODPP imeshindwa katika kesi hiyo. Dhidi ya ufisadi.
Wacha nikwambie, nimeona hiyo imesambazwa kila pahali. Lakini nyinyi kama wanahabari pia tafadhalini mchunguze mambo ile ambayo mnapewa. Hiyo order unayosema ilikuwa May 2019. Sasa mfuatilie kuna order ngapi zingine ambazo zilifuata baada ya hiyo, na kwamba order hizo ambazo zimepewa imefanya order hii ambayo mnayesema haina nguvu wala haina pahali. Kwa hivyo msidanganywe na msikubali kudanganywa kupeleka habari ambazo zisizo sawa. Tafadhalini chunguzeni, angalieni, mtuulize ili tuweze kuwafafanulia ndio wananchi wafahamu. Order hiyo ni ya kitambo na haiwezi kutumika hivi sasa. Kwa hivyo inafaa wajue.
How much have you been able to cover for that? And the second question, there's a case of Hamsukariuki that is in court, and there's a perception that there's some inefficiency in your office in terms of handing over documents, and the case has failed to take off. Would you kindly respond?
Yeah, on that issue, I implore the media to ensure that they make investigation, and I implore you. You've been doing a very good job, and we really appreciate what you're doing in fighting corruption. But when you give coverage, please give coverage equally, especially when in court. When a pronouncement comes from the defense counsel, that is their point of view, and unless the court says yes, they agree with them, please do not take that narrative as the correct position in court. It is not. They can say that, and they can shout on the roofs over and over again, so long as we don't have an order from the court saying that the case is deficient. The case is before court, and that will only be determined once it is concluded. And this is the argument that I've been putting across. Nobody should come and argue that our cases are deficient or our cases are weak. You can only determine that at the end of the process and after hearing the case. And it will not be fair for anybody to stand and say our cases, because we are now increasingly being fed up with this argument that our cases are weak. You can only determine that after you hear the case and at its very conclusion. Because this narrative is worrying us as prosecutors. It is a narrative that is increasingly also influencing the public, and if it is influencing the public, it will eventually also influence the magistrate and the judge who is sitting there. Because even before he listens to the case, his conclusion will be that whatever has been brought is weak. So I think that chapter, jameni tufungeni, mungoje mpaka ruling, and you let us close that argument, because the best thing and the fair thing to do is to wait for the case to conclude.
Could I, if you don't mind, sorry,
Yes.
if you don't mind, I just want to add one small word. One of the things we've also been doing under the Plead programme is providing support for a kind of, I would call it a peer review of the solidity of the case before it even goes near the justice system. So that's a very concrete example of the kind of support we've been providing. I think it's also important from our perspective when we look at the analysis we make and report back to our capitals to look at facts. And I think unless I'm wrong, the data we have shows that I think of the cases that the DPP prosecuted last year, which ended in a judgment, I think the conviction rate was 90% or above, which a priori doesn't suggest that in the vast majority of cases there are glaring holes in the evidence being brought. And I think that's important to have that in mind. And yesterday when I was with colleagues at the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, I think again, there similarly of something like the 73 cases that they had brought last year, there were over, I think 53, 54 successful outcomes of the prosecution.
From what we have spoken about, in regards to the prosecution fund, we talked about a team that will be overseeing the prosecution fund. Can you kindly elaborate on that? What kind of team is this? You say it will be independent.
Yes, we will be appointing soon that team, and we'll announce it to the public, together with the regulations that will regulate the prosecution fund.
Okay, so the second question is about your deliberations with the Attorney General in regards to the contempt of court. Can you tell us just how far that has gone and what we can expect?
I think this issue has just come recently, so we are now taking note and pushing forward to have this piece of legislation that will regulate issues of contempt of court orders. Plea bargaining, yes. As you know, last year we really sensitized plea bargaining, and I've said this repeatedly, that there are guidelines that guide how plea bargainings will be entered. There are very strict rules. There's only few cases that have met those stringent rules, and really I cannot say that we have effectively utilized it, but this year, because this year, the year of convictions, is probably when you will see the utilization of plea bargaining. But I want to make it very clear. Plea bargaining does not mean that you're getting off the hook. Some people tend to misinterpret the reason and the purpose of plea bargaining. It will assist us in prosecution. Whoever enters into a plea bargaining is accepting that they did a wrong and will restitute whatever monies were lost, and might in most instances serve jail time. Yeah.
Swali langu la mwisho. Umesema katika
Msiniulize mimi peke yangu, lakini
yale ambayo umesema kwamba kuna positive indicators mwaka huu, huenda kukawa na watu ambao watafungwa ama mahakama itatoa mwongozo kuhusu kesi ambazo wamepeleka mahakamani. Lakini Rais Uhuru Kenyatta katika Mombasa alisema kwamba mahakama imezuia kwa njia kubwa kupigana na ufisadi. Je, ni nini hiki ambacho wewe mwenyewe umekiona kwamba huenda kutatolewa uamuzi mwaka huu?
No, mimi ninavyosema, nina uhakika mimi na wenzangu kama prosecutors ya kwamba tunayo kesi nzuri, na kwa ajili tuna kesi nzuri, tuna uhakika ya kwamba hiyo conviction itakuwa. Na mumesikia kutoka wenzetu kutoka European Union akisema yeye mwenyewe kama mtu ambaye hana interest yoyote, interest yake ni interest ya nchi yake, ya kwamba hizi kesi ni kesi za nguvu, na itakuwa itakuwa ni maajabu ikiwa hatuwezi kupata hiyo conviction. Na sitaki kuzungumzia mambo ya judiciary ama nini, lakini nafikiri rais alisema wazi ni shida ambayo tuko nayo mpaka sasa, lakini ni shida ambayo iko kwa sekta nzima, na tunajaribu iwezekanavyo kuhakikisha kwamba hii shida na hii utetezi unaondolewa. Kwa hivyo mimi ni maoni yangu, tutangoja tuone koti na mahakama watasema nini. Asante.